The Two of Cups is a beautiful card concerned with the bonding and powerful energy of love. On the Rider-Waite deck we can see a physical coming together of a loving union, the exchanging of cups and intertwining of hands, emblazoned above them with a winged lion atop a caduceus symbol, hereby representing a symbol of union and yet also of exchange of ideas, of commerce, and the power of love to transcend and transform an energy, the winged lion, a passionate, fiery energy, suggesting an enlivened relationship. On the Tree of Life, this card is in Chokmah and represents something of the balancing and opposing forces of which come together in this card. The card itself is very feminine, and so Chokmah is going to be a balancing energy to that, and so Chokmah is often depicted as wisdom, and yet the word itself could mean something akin to the potential of what can be. And because it emanates from Kether, it contains within it an infinite light and an energy of that light emerging from a cosmic nothingness, and here the balancing aspect of that, the feminine aspect, receives and nurtures and brings into life. And so we can actually see that duality and coming together upon the card straight away. It has an astrological significance in quite a central place upon the card, and this indeed shows that the card is Venus in the element of Cancer. And so we really see here some very friendly signs in the zodiac, if you like. Venus is indeed very receptive, and it's all about love and beauty and the celebration of love and beauty in the world around us, and it's paired with the element of Cancer, showing again nurturing and supporting and healing energies. Bringing them together really shows this card shows intimacy and yet also a safety of love in many different forms. It's really wearing one's heart on one's sleeve, and again Venus and Cancer are going to be watery in their aspects, and so that is why this card is very, very watery in its symbology. Indeed, we can see that the card is formed out of the lotuses, of which we saw on the previous card, opening up, and they're actually opening themselves up to the energy of love that we see here. And this energy of love can be love for anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be a physical relationship. It can be the love of, a flower, or the love of the sunrise. It can even be just simply the love for the beauty of the soul itself, of life itself, and it's opening itself up to receive all of that. And in its centre are two entwined fish. They're quite strange looking, and yet they're actually said to represent dolphins. And so here we have a wisdom and a self-awareness and a great spiritual power, and yet also something of the dualism and the coming together that this card encaptures so well. After all, a dolphin is actually a marine mammal, even though it is to us like a fish, and so a dolphin is both one thing and another. It is two truths and two ways of looking at it, two perspectives coming together, and so the duality of life could be seen in this symbol. It is both love and sorrow, for instance, and without one there cannot be the other, and there cannot be the overflowing that we see upon this card. The dolphins themselves actually show this to us. If we have a look first at the dolphin over on the left hand side, it has a yellow eye symbol and a fin of which has 5 points. The yellow eye here is a symbol of the sun and therefore the day, and the 5 points bring us to the 5th card upon the major arcana, of which is the Emperor. And so here the Sun and the Emperor shows that this is the masculine counterpart, or the left brain hemisphere, or the day. And over, of course, on the right dolphin we have a silver eye and a fin with 4 points. The silver eye being the moon, the night, the receptive, the feminine, and therefore the 4 points bringing us to the 4th card in the major arcana, the Empress. And so here, entwined upon the Two of Cups, is the relationship between the Emperor and the Empress, which is a beautiful and powerful symbol up in tarot mythology in general. This is also a symbol of alchemy. It's showing the great work, the microcosm and macrocosm coming together, because their balance here is completely and totally harmonious. There is not one thing of which is tipping the scales too far to one side. The balance between the masculine and feminine counterparts of these two expressions of life and expressions of soul are in complete and total harmony, and therefore we can see that they are supporting the lotuses to allow water to flow from them through the dolphins and down into the physical manifestation, and they are completely overcome with this overflowing of powerful, light, beautiful water of Kether, and they are even speaking of this love themselves, for it comes out of the area of their mouths. We've seen the lotus symbol as concerned with the goddess Isis, and she is a divine and powerful mother goddess, and so in some ways the water here could even be the waters of life itself, such as shown with other symbols such as the Ankh. And even cross-culturally we see goddesses such as Lyra Gauri, a lotus-headed goddess of whom is concerned yet again with abundance and fertility and love, and she is shown in a birthing posture to suggest a birthing of idea of love into the world, and of course of physical coming together as well, which would bloom into love and the actual possibility of new life springing from it. Indeed, the water gathers and is brought into perfect harmony yet again within the two cups, and we can see that altogether there are 10 streams emanating from these cups, indeed 5 upon each. And these 10 streams are two things. They are firstly the 10 Sephiroth of the Tree of Life altogether, of which is everything in the universe, showing that this love has touched and found itself up in the hearts of everything in creation. And they are also the 10th Sephiroth on its own, of which is Malkuth, kingdom. And so these are things coming in to manifestation. They are the fruits and produce of this unity and this coming together, and whether this is indeed a physical life, or whether it is the birth of an idea, a new path in life, or simply the birth of a healing process up in the hearts of the lovers brought together. Indeed, we can see that the water is flowing into a sea of green, a really beautiful sea of green, of which is tinted with this yellow behind it. The green brings us back to Venus, and therefore the creative aspect of love, because Venus is also a goddess of agriculture, as well as the more commonly known elements of her. She is concerned with vineyards and gardens, and she cultivates the land, and so this green sea can be that element of the green earth. And so the waters of life here flowing into the green sea are the seeds being cultivated into the land, and out springs, perhaps after the powerful festival of Beltane, the sun is high in the sky, and our flowers and our crops and all of the wonderful green and beauteous earth shows itself in its splendour, and it is balanced with the yellow aspect of the ocean, of which, if the green aspect was that physical, creative aspect of love, the yellow is the inspirational, the subconscious, and the spiritual aspect of love that we've been talking about, again bringing these two elements into perfect harmony. And so this is a different kind of love to that of which we see on a physical level. It's not a love of a physical attraction, it's a love of the very soul. It transcends the physical shell, it transcends the world of perceived limitation. This is the love of pure existence itself, and of loving somebody purely and wholly, simply because they actually exist. And above this ocean is a clear blue sky, and you'll notice that there's no clouds up in this sky, and there's certainly no element of trouble, there's no thunderstorms or darkening of the clouds. It is completely and totally clear. This shows that the love of which is viewable in this ocean today is clear of all of that limitation. It's clear of things of which may come into our life and distract us from getting back to that very core of what this card is talking about. And so it really is showing that despite whatever limitation may lie in our way. Truly, love transcends all of that and brings it all together. Crowley even describes this card in the Book of Thoth as referring to love of which recovers unity from individuality. And so perhaps we could actually see something of the goddess Nuit speaking in the Book of the Law up in this clear blue sky. She is, of course, the goddess of the sky and the stars. And the goddess Nuit speaks to us and says, "For I am divided for love's sake and for the chance of union." And therefore she's saying that love in a physical sense here requires both a lover and a loved one, and their dividing brings them together. Their desire to be brought together, and this process of them coming together creates the great work and the magic of creation, such as we read yet again in Thelema, "The world exists as two, for only can there be known the joy of love, wherein the two are made one. And all this is one alone, and has little pain in making itself two, that it may know itself and love itself, and rejoice therein." And so when you draw this card, it can mean that in a very physical way. It can mean marriage and, love and the coming together of partnerships and even friendships if it is not in a romantic sense. And it can mean on a deeper level access to that universal love, that, just the love of existence itself. And it's all about welcoming it into our hearts and being receptive to allowing it to overflow, such as we're seeing on the card. If we're practicing meditation, for example, it asks us to have a connection to that element, not just one side of the scales tipped far too far to one end and therefore not coming together in unity. The quality of this card is universal love. It is saturated and overflowing in that energy, and it asks us to take that into ourselves and allow it to flow.